Hello everybody, this is Toys R Us, and for this new figure unboxing and review, we're going to be looking at the Rise of the Beasts Voyager class Optimus Prime figure. So what we're going to do with this video, we're going to unbox him in a second, have a look at the entire contents of the packaging. We're going to have a detailed look at him in both of his modes to help you decide how you want to display him. We can see how he compares to his last, I suppose, Voyager class outing of himself, which is of course the studio series from the Bumblebee movie. We can see how he displays and looks again with some of the other figures which are studio series in the same toy line, and indeed some of the other Rise of the Beasts figures that are very similar to this Optimus Prime, just in the normal toy line. So as you can see, quite a bit to get through with this video today. So as I start to pop all these away, I'd like to remind anybody who's not subscribed to this channel, if they'd like to hit that subscribe button for me now please, because it really will help me out. And if anybody's wondering, I got this from Smith's Toys in the UK, where all of a sudden all of the Rise of the Beasts figures just seem to have appeared. Right, let's have a look at the packaging as well then. So we've got this lovely, I love the way it comes from one side across onto the other. This is of course an actual screenshot by the looks of it of what he looks like in the movie, just as he's about to, I suppose, activate his arm cannon, or he's pointing obviously there. And I really like the look of this Optimus Prime. It's brilliant. You can just tell that it's a bit of the Generation 1-esque. I'll get the Generation 1 figure out as well, just for a comparison, and some other Optimus Primes as well, of course, as the ones that I've showed you. Now we can see that this is a different mold to the ones that I have just shown you, and it's going to take 20 steps to transform him. We've got all this lovely Rise of the Beast artwork all the way around, and indeed there he is again. So yeah, just a quick reminder, this is a mainline figure. So what that means is it's not a studio series, it's exactly that. So these are the ones that are on the shelves right now, and they're priced slightly different, shall we say. They're a little bit cheaper than your studio series figures. Studio series Voyager figures are quite a bit more than what this actually was. I thought it was off. Yes, it is. There we go. And again, packaging is pretty good. I'm not bothered about them being windowless, although obviously the rumours is that we're coming back to having windows in figures, especially this particular size. Now what's interesting about this is he pretty much does near enough fill out the entire packaging, which is good to see. We've got some lovely NASCAR lines in the background, which I've now noticed, with of course Decepticon, Autobot and Maximal symbols, and Terracon by the looks of it. But as you can see, there's nothing else in the packaging. There's not much back kibble on this either by the looks of it, which looks really good. I've only ever seen images of this, so this is going to be really interesting, just as interesting for me as hopefully it is for you. There's only the instructions and that bit there, so what I'm going to do is set him free and come right back to you. Okay then, so I've just set him free from the packaging, and we're going to do some first impressions. And also, just to clarify, when I said the last Voyager class figure of him, I obviously meant movie wise. We'll have a look at some Generations ones as well, but as you can see, his legs were tabbed together, so you will need to separate them. And initially at first, when I saw images of this guy, I thought this was too grey and I didn't like the look of it. I thought it didn't look painted enough, but it's not bad at all, to be honest. Okay, yes, it is missing, well, it might not be missing, because again, the image of him in the movie, he isn't really painted there, so it's not really missing paint apps. What I'm trying to say is it looks a little dull, however there's lots of detail on it. I mean, look at all the detail there in and around, as I say, just, I suppose it's his abdominal region and around the hips. There's loads of really nice molding detail where you can, I suppose, see inner workings, you can see pistons, all that sort of stuff. So it's not as bad as what the pictures that I've seen of this make him look like, to be honest. There's also hardly any back kibble at all, which is a bit of a surprise, because usually there's always something that sort of sticks or protrudes out, but you can see there's not much at all. The head sculpt on it is good. It's not too big. It's quite detailed actually. Again, you've got the visor, you've got molding details around the top of the head and at the side. It's very tight, but yes, he does turn left to right. It doesn't look like it goes up or down. That looks like that's for the transformation, so that won't be going there. The arms are, yeah, they're not on ball and sockets, but they do go all the way around. They go out to the side. We've got, this is very, very stiff. We've got a shoulder swivel, which is basically at the bicep. We've got a bicep flexion, and that goes all the way back. It's near enough a double bicep joint. It's so, it goes, as well, you can see, it literally goes all the way up to the top. The wrist doesn't swivel, but there's a bit of movement on it because, of course, you can see, actually, it will swivel because it's on a ball and socket. Yeah, you've got a wrist swivel. You've got movement in the left and right. That is a really, really articulated wrist, to be fair. Legs, it looks like we've got some hip skirts. Yeah, we have. So if we move these out of the way, you can go all the way to the side, to the front, to the back, knee bend, ankle tilt and rock. And looking at this abdomen, there's, oh, that's his chest being pushed in. Maybe it should have been all the way in. I'm not too sure. That's how it was packaged. No, it's not. There is a bit of an, there's a bit of an ab crunch there, by the way. I'm not sure. Yeah, I might be actually starting to transform him, but you can get away with that. He doesn't look like he's snapped in half at all. And of course, there's a waist swivel there. And by the looks of it, there's the top of the torso swivel. So you can swivel both parts. So obviously that's going to be something to do with the transformation. But again, very, very articulate. And I have to confess straight off the bat that this is way better than I thought it was going to be. And I wish, to be honest, that I'd purchased this first as soon as I saw it in the shops. I was giving it a little bit of a, I don't want to say a wide berth, but I just thought it didn't look as good as obviously what I think it is in hand. So there we go. First impressions are indeed very good. So we're going to go now. We're going to have a quick look at him in his alternate mode. Then we're going to come back and do all the comparisons and see how he looks with his accessories. In fact, I'll just show you this. This is his blaster. This, I suppose this is the only thing, as silly as this is about to sound, that feels a little cheap with it. It does just feel cheap. It's really hollow. But it's just his blaster, and of course it will serve its purpose. And you can see there's 5mm holes, so we can put whatever we want in his hands anyway. But let's have a look at him in his alternate mode. Okay, then we're back, and as you can see, he's in his alternate mode already. Quick apologies for no transformation process on this video. It's for a couple of reasons. The first is to keep the main length of this video down, and the second is not to spoil it for anybody who doesn't want it spoiling for themselves. With this, of course, being a new figure, I know that some people really appreciate getting that first transformation for themselves. However, if you do want to see it, it is going to be uploaded as part of a tutorial video as well, so you can have a look at that if you want to. What I will say about the transformation process is it's fun, to be honest. It's very much like Air Razor. It's really satisfactory, and it's clever at the same time. So there you go. Without giving too much details away, without spoiling it, it's very fun to actually do it. Now the alternate mode itself looks really good. As you can see, it does exactly what it should do. It is a truck. The wheels go all around completely unrestricted. No issues with that. It's nice and flush. There's no, as I say, there's no parts sticking up out of the way, etc. You can really see the detail now on these windows, which I think are fantastic. I like the way that they're translucent enough and there's not too much going on in there, which again looks brilliant. The bull bar at the front looks fantastic as well. Perhaps it could have just protruded out just a teensy weeny a little bit more. The smokestacks again look good. It's nice to have the smokestacks back, even though they are all part of this. Again, maybe if I want to be overly critical, which again I'm being overly critical because of the price point, they could have perhaps made it, you know, more silver, or indeed brought some chrome back, which I don't think we'll ever see, to be honest. But again, it's a fun little toy. It works. You've got this 5mm port at the back. You can attach the gun in there, and of course you could put other weapons in there if you really wanted to, but because obviously this is a mainline figure, and this isn't a negative, this is just something to be aware of, it doesn't scale as well as the Studio Series figures do. And that's another reason, of course, why these are much cheaper. The Studio Series, you know, they come in the same size boxes, but there's no backdrops with the mainline figures like there is with Studio Series, and indeed they don't all scale. And a brilliant example of that is Core Class RC that's nearly as big as it. So I haven't got the rest of the trucks transformed, just because again they're all so much bigger. This is really quite small and compact in his alternate mode, just for a bit of fun and just to see why the G1 guys loved it so much. There is of course Generation 1 Optimus Prime, and funnily enough, oh, he's not lying flush, but I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, are they the same size? Very similar. I mean, that is super similar to your G1 figure. But see what I mean about the chrome? Just a little bit of chrome on the smokestacks, maybe on the wheels, would have made such a huge difference. But anyway, I don't want to take anything away from this figure. Again, I'm already really pleasantly surprised with it, but it looks even more alarming when you've got the Studio Series figures in the background, and just how much bigger, as I say, I suppose, that these do look. Even though this is a different film, as I say, that was his last incarnation as a Voyager in a movie bot. But especially with Cheetor now, Cheetor's going to look ridiculous compared to him. However, as I've said, I definitely won't be displaying this guy in the alternate mode, so it's not too bad. I suppose it scales a little bit better with the weaponizer packs, and what I mean by that is, sorry, not the weaponizers, the Beast Alliance ones. I think they are weaponizers actually. There, of course, is Optimus Primal from that, and there we go, Arrow Stripe I think his name is. So he scales pretty well with them, to be honest. So if you're looking for a display in alternate mode, there you go. That's what I think is going to work much better with it. If you're wondering how big he is with regards to some normal generations or mainline figures, there's a core class, and indeed there is a deluxe class. So yeah, as I say, quite a small alternate mode, but nothing too detrimental at all. Right, let's come back for the final time then with him in his robot mode and see how he displays with some of the rest of these figures. So then we're back for the final time with him in his robot mode, and let's see how he looks with his accessory. Now I've just noticed on the back there's a 5mm port there, so you can actually, if you wanted to, and again why you would I don't really know, you could just put the gun behind him if you didn't want to put it in his hand, or indeed maybe there'll be some other figures or something else that we can come and attach to this, because it just seems interesting that it's randomly just put there. And it's definitely a 5mm port, and that obviously becomes the top of the roof. So I'm thinking that this is going to be able to maybe not combine, but definitely utilize or join up with some other weapons anyway. Here we can put his blaster in his hand, and as I said, this is the only weakest thing on it, the blaster. I just think it could have been, they could have made it look a little bit better, but from the side, I'm sure you'll agree, it doesn't look too bad at all. What I'm just very quickly doing, because I've got him here as well, is I'm just going to have a quick look at how Arrow Stripe would look in his hand as well. While I'm doing that, I'm just going to bring up some other figures just to do some comparisons. So there, of course, is the original Generation 1 version of him. And then, funnily enough, this is, I don't have the Earthrise, but I've got the Netflix Earthrise version of him. And again, you can see the lovely homages to him. He's also quite a bit smaller than that, so you get obviously the impression that he is exactly that, just that teensy bit, not as big. And especially not as the studio series, but you can see how that they've managed to, I suppose, keep the Generation 1-ish continuity going, because of course he did look very G1-ish in the Bumblebee movie. All right, I've just managed to do this, so I'm going to move these two out of the way for now, and let's see if this looks okay in his hand. Everything's really super tight because it's obviously brand new. Now that doesn't look too good in his hands, let's be honest, it doesn't look very good at all. But maybe if we take it around the back, and this is it's not going to look any better at all. It was worth a try. It's not going to look any better whatsoever. So hopefully we'll see what that's about. Otherwise it just seems a little bit pointless it being there. If you wanted to, you could close the chest, but it doesn't look anywhere near as good in my opinion like that. Just slightly open, not too far, makes it look really good. So let's bring up, as I said figure that I was talking about. So this is the Studio Series Bumblebee version of him, and again you can just sort of tell with all these what I mean about the Generation 1 homages in it. Okay, it's not as detailed as that, but again, totally different price points, and indeed, as I said, a different movie. But I've already said I'm really impressed with this guy. I think he's better than I thought he would be. If I just move these out of the way for now, and again bring up some other figures, so not the same movie, from the Bumblebee movie, obviously we've got RC and indeed Bumblebee, and I think they look really good with him, to be honest, even though again they're studio series, they seem to scale really well with him. Then we've got, as I say, a mainline deluxe, and she was really good as well. I was really impressed with this figure. I think her transformation's great, and just as I do his, as again just a reminder, it is in a separate tutorial video, and there's quite a few nice throwbacks with regards to his transformation in the Generation 1 figure as well. Now the only issue, as we've got with these, is when you bring the normal Studio Series figures in, because they are just so much bigger, which you can see they're quite a lot bigger. I don't have the Leader Class Scourge just yet, but you can see what I mean by the size difference compared to these. If I just get Core Class Freezer coming in again, and I keep saying it, he's so fiddly, and all of his limbs just keep falling off on me, which don't really help whatsoever. I mean, he doesn't look too bad with them, I'm sure you'll agree. I think he looks okay, but I think he's gonna look a lot better with the main line of figures. So I think if I just take the Studio Series ones out of the way for a second, and I'm gonna leave Air Razor there, because again, she's from that line, and no, he's too small, so that doesn't go. If you're wondering what he's like compared to some third-party figures, there's a third-party New Age's take on Megatron, which is Agamemnon, and their take on Ironhide as well. There's Hawk, and then I've got a Magic Square Trailbreaker as well, just to the side. So yeah, do you know what? No, he wouldn't. He's way too big. He wouldn't scale with them at all, even though he should be big because he's a leader. It just doesn't really work. But I think, again, not that I've ran out of superlatives to say for this guy. I think I've more than said enough about him. I think he's definitely surpassed my opinion on what I thought he would be. He's just a brilliant mainline figure. And as I say, as far as I'm concerned, he's sort of like in the middle. And I'm going to bring these two out again because this is what it's about. He's just sort of in the middle of them, isn't he? You can tell he's a movie bot, but he's not overly a movie bot, if you know what I mean. No crazy bits all over the place. I really like him. Let me know what you think in the comments, guys. He's definitely worth picking up. He's completely, yeah, I didn't think he'd be as good as he is. So there you go. Take care.